Welcome to Beauty and the Beast, where we create a safe haven for Black men to engage in deep conversations and share their journeys in a judgment-free space.
In each episode, we dive into topics that matter, from identity and relationships to personal growth and resilience. This is a space where your story is valued, your voice is heard, and your journey is shared with others who, like you, may feel alone in the world.
Join us as we normalize conversations that are too often left unspoken and build a community rooted in support, understanding, and empowerment. Whether you're seeking connection, inspiration, or simply a place to be yourself, you're in the right place.
Through heartfelt storytelling and insightful dialogue, the podcast aims to dismantle stigma and foster a deeper understanding of the emotional landscapes navigated by Black men, ultimately highlighting the beauty that emerges from their journeys. Let's break the myth that Black men are beasts. I'm Malik Baraka, leadership coach, skills trainer, workshop facilitator, and a man of the culture.
My name is Kyle Ball, University of Miami Hurricane, corporate leader, advocate for mental health, and movie producer. Welcome to Beauty and the Beast. Let's start the conversation. Shawn, man, thank you for being here. You know who I am. This is my boy Malik Baraka, certified coach out in these streets now. So this podcast, we like to think is a little bit different, right? Because we like our guests to walk us through their journey, right? In life, and whatever that means, and your journey to success in terms of your own definition of success. But we take a slight twist on it, and we look at what the emotional journey looks like. So, right, for me, you read all these professional books, right? And they tell you about their success stories, and they tell you about the steps they took in life. But I know for me, and I'm assuming for you, you realize in life that the decision you made, you didn't realize that decision was the right decision until like 3 or 4 years have gone by. You know, this was a decision I needed to make in my life. So we kind of like to have that conversation, like emotionally, but not only what that emotion was for you, but also for the people around you. Like, what does it mean for them? So just giving you the kind of backdrop of what we do here. So my opening salvo that I like to go through for all of our guests is, one, I know you as a father, right? I know you as a friend. I know you as a husband. I know you as a highly successful corporate executive. But having said all that, what I like to know and what our audience likes to know is, and Malik as well, what in your path, especially as a child, set you on a journey?
First of all, it's an honor, Kyle Malik. Nice to meet you. Honor to be here and to go through my journey. There are certain decisions that are made for you, and there's certain decisions that you make. I think one of the most pivotal things that happened to me as a youngster was my father passed away from cancer when I was 10 years old. And you can imagine that is very traumatic when you're 10 years old. And we were at the house and playing, my brother and I, my mom and dad were in the living room with some of their friends from church, just having a Friday night session, and my father collapsed. Paramedics came, took him away. My aunt lives next door. He went to stay with my aunt. And I remember getting up the next morning at the breakfast table, phone rings, and I knew something was up. And my aunt was like, no, I haven't told them yet. And I was like, man, that's ominous. And then I found out my father passed away. So that kind of set me on a path where family of 5, but it was my younger brother and I who were in the house. He's 14 months younger than I am. You realize you're the man of the house. And being a Black man, Black boy in the South, and I was like, man, I really have to get it into gear. I wasn't a top student, but I wasn't a bottom student, but it really just set me on the path that I needed to make some decisions where I was going to be successful in whatever I was going to do. But that was really the thing that kind of set me apart when I was 10 years old.
What type of emotion were you processing through that? Like, it feels like that's pretty common. Excuse me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're not prepared. My father wasn't sick. It was all of a sudden. I mean, we'll probably talk if you get to it when my mom passed away, but she passed away 22 years ago. but you're not ready for that. I mean, it's it's binary, off, on, off. Your father's no longer in your life. So you're going through all these emotions. It's like, man, he's taught me how to ride a bike, right? He taught me to be truthful and honest. But I'm like, man, this guy's not around to help me, catch a ball, hit a ball, play golf, navigate relationships with females. He's not going to be there when I'm a father. So it was quite deep. But I would say, my father was from a family he had 4 siblings, 4 brothers. He was the oldest of the 5. So we all lived. My grandfather was a farmer. I didn't know my grandfather. He passed away probably 5 years before I was born. But they all built houses on the prior farm. So I grew up around my relatives, and my grandfather on my mom's side was around, and they just instilled in me some lessons. And it's like, all right, education is going to set you where you want to go. But remember, your father is looking down on you. Make the right decision because your father is looking down on you. But be honored and blessed that your father was with you for 10 years. Some people, their father may pass away when they're 1 year old. So, and it also helped me understand that life is ups and downs. And when you're up, you can't assume that you're always going to be that high. And when you're at a low point, it's not always going to be that low. It's going to be a lowest of low, but you could come higher. But yeah, it was hard at 10, but you overcome it. It's that, buzzword that people have been using really, going back 5-6 years since the pandemic is perseverance, but you persevere and you are resilient. As a 10-year-old, it's like, okay, my father passed away. I guess that's normal. And you deal with it, but it's hard. I mean, I think about him every day.
Wow. So, okay. I did not know that about you.
Yeah,
Like,
we've known each other for like 17 years.
We were just talking about that the other day. It's like freaking 17 years, and I can't believe it's been that long. Wow. I'm just like it starts there. So how does that shape you as you go through life? And you just said you think about him every day, but how do you show up as a father with that as your backdrop?
Yeah, it's hard because you don't have your direct father. My mom never remarried. So you're looking at others, your grandfather, your uncles, your brothers. I have 2 older brothers, but it's not direct. I would say that it's I didn't have that, right? Like, had my father was 10 years old. He taught me how to ride a bike, taught me how to be a man when I went to church. But yeah, it's tough, but you surround yourself with people who are going on the path that you want to be on. And I knew I wanted to be an engaged father. I knew I wanted to be, and my father, I mean, he passed away from cancer. You can't prevent cancer, but I knew like health is very important. So I work out, but I try to set a good role for my kids and what I see in other dads and read. But it's tough not having a dad who walked me through how to drive a car. Like I had to teach my kids, but I take joy in it.
I get that, bro. I get that sentiment for sure, because for me, my father was living but never around.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I did inadvertently, as a child, was I started acquiring father figures.
Yep.
Right? Looking for different people to fill this void that I didn't understand at the time, right? But was left by dad not being in the home. And so it might have been an uncle here, my grandfather there from time to time, but it was also people outside of the house, taking different elements from me.
That is that in terms of surrounding yourself with mentors, father figures, is becoming a theme for us. Yeah, it just that was on my heart, and I feel like that's something we want to delve into. Speaking of that, how much has that type of dynamic helped you in life, especially as you graduate from high school, you become you go out into the world, you're an undergrad, you become a man. Like how much of that dynamic has helped you in life?
Yeah, I think you want to take things as you said it, right? You want to take a blueprint that was successful and how can I attach myself to it and build on it and level up and layer up. Again, by God's will, single parent home for the majority of my life when I was in my mom's house. So I wanted to be successful. I wanted, one of the things that it was either my grandfather, one of my uncles said, hey, you got 6 inches between your ears, just like everybody else. That means your brain. Mm-hmm. How are you going to use it? How are you going to utilize it to get what you want to do? So it absolutely played a role in me when I was in middle school and high school and then applying for college. And then when I was in college, and there's always trade-offs, right? Yeah. I mean, one of the things that people told me, hey, especially in college, it was in high school as well, is you can go out to the parties. Guess what? You're in school for an education. Right. So if you have free time between 3 and 9, why not use that at the library? And then you can go to the party and have fun and be well-rounded. But I saw people like that, but it was that kind of determination that, hey, I'm in school for 4 years. I'm going to go in there in 4 years, do what I need to do in the classroom, also network to make sure that I had some of the best internships. And then it was going to set me up for being successful in corporate America. Because when my father was alive, I'm from small town in North Carolina, known for furniture. My father worked in a furniture factory. And I remember, and maybe I'll make this short, but I remember going to visit my dad one day when I was probably like 6 or 7. And somebody's like, oh, yeah, you can do what your dad does. And I'm like, nope, I will run this place, but I'm not going to build furniture. Right. Again, it was that seed that was planted in me from my grandfather that, hey, utilize your brain to do what you want to do. And I wanted to have the big house, the big car, and be successful.
So what does freshman Shawn look like as compared to graduating Shawn look like?
Yeah, I was green, man. I think it's you go into college. So I went to a majority white high school, graduated, top 10, top 5 in my high school, but I decided to go to a historically black college and university, North Carolina A&T, which I have on the pen, very proud of my alma mater, because I wanted to be around us and get the foundation before I went out into corporate America, because corporate America is primarily white, which I have no problem with. But you go in there, had the high top fade, it was the era of kid and play.
I gotta see a picture. See a picture.
There are pictures. I went in there green. But I met some lifelong friends, some friends who would be my fraternity brothers another, 18 months after my freshman year. But again, it's talked about gravitating and attaching to people who are successful, and you understand you don't know everything. So how do I navigate this college campus? How do I navigate these classes? How do I navigate getting these internships? You got to be able to listen. You have to be able to adjust and be open to critical feedback. But I remember, top 10, as I said, in my high school class, I went there and I was taking American history. And it was a professor who was teaching it who was from Southeast Asia. I'm like, man, I'm going to easily ace this class. And it's the first time, because you do have a little bit of hubris and overconfidence. And I remember taking this American history exam, and I was a history buff. And I got like a 64. I'd never seen a 64 on a paper in my life. And just what flashed into my mind was, am I going to be one of those people who's really smart in high school and just flamed out after a year in college? But I didn't realize they graded on a curve. And so that 60-something was actually an A. And I ended up, not having to take the final. But senior year, I listened to the feedback, get rid of the high top fade. Again, you're going to have to, people didn't have high top fades. I was an accounting undergrad and was going to be in corporate America. So I got rid of that. But I was savvy of what was going on. Graduated summa cum laude, so I was ready to take on the world.
So real quick, I want you to jump in, but you said a couple things, right? I heard some things in there. I heard imposter syndrome. I heard that. But I also heard somewhat of a fear of failure.
100%.
So talk about that and talk about people who are in the shoes that you were. They're in your shoes now that you were back then. So what kinds of things were you thinking about and how did you get through that? What advice would you have for somebody like that?
Yeah, I mean, awareness is a big word. It's a small word, but you have to be aware of it. But again, I wanted to be everything that I wanted, success, what I thought was success, material success. But then you're like, am I that person to do this? Because you do, I said earlier, right? We all have 6 inches between our ears. Mm-hmm. Are you utilizing it effectively? And I thought I was utilizing it very effectively, but you can get humbled very quickly. And especially when you are in an environment where people look like you, and then you go to an environment where you want, the top corporate job, right? It's blue chip companies you'll recognize to this day was my internship, but I couldn't go to that job interview or even to my first internship with a high top fade. It wasn't going to go over well. I wasn't going to be able to get that job offer to come back full time.
Right.
So, I mean, you're masking yourself, you're afraid to fail, but I think that's one of the things, which is kind of common as I talk to people. Successful people really think they're not doing really well, but I think that keeps them and myself on the grind that, hey, people going to find me out, so let me work a little bit harder. Let me burn this midnight oil. Let me do everything where I become more sticky to the people I'm around, especially when you're working in corporate America. It's a little easier in college, right? Because it's objective. If you get a 99 on the test, you're getting an A in the class, right? If you get a 70, you're getting a D or C in the class. But at work, it's about relationships and it's making people feel comfortable.
I'm curious to know if you experienced like any cognitive dissonance around, all right, this is the shit I need to do in order to penetrate this environment and thrive in here versus what may have felt true to you culturally.
So it's a good question, right? So I am very proud of my HBCU. I'm very proud of my fraternity. So I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. So I never, it's Shawn when he's at A&T around my fraternity brothers, it's Shawn in a corporate environment, right? There's two different ones, but I don't think that weighs on my ego or conscience. I sleep like a baby at night, but you can see how some people, it does, right? Well, Shawn, why'd you get rid of your high top fade? Especially in today's generation, right? You can be more as your authentic self or real, but it really didn't weigh on me because I guess, I've been doing this for 30 years now in corporate America. I have no problem. But when I'm around my boys, I mean, Kyle knows, like, I'm one of the boys hanging and kicking it. But when I'm at work, it's Shawn at work. Let's get stuff done.
Yeah, I remember talking to this dude over the years. And I was talking to someone earlier, and I'm like, I just, I have friends. I don't look for successful people to be my friends, right? That's just not, I just have friends, right? But I remember talking to this dude once, and I think there was a period in time we were talking a lot. Like we would talk all the time. And I was like, hey man, what you working on? He's like, oh, I am preparing the 10Q for the company. Now, mind you, he's working for some big companies. We're talking some brands that everybody would know about. I won't call names. And I was like, oh, you that guy? I was like, no. You
for the uninformed in the room and in the audience, what is a 10Q?
But you explain what you.
So when you're a public corporation, you have to file certain financial forms for your, investors, the owners of your company. So it's just basically telling the health of your company. A 10Q is quarterly filed for public companies, and then the 10K is annually once you finish your 12 months, whatever that cycle is. But you're getting on something that I am who I am, but I can separate that work from Leisure Shawn. But I'm never going to bring it up to my friends where I'm this person. Like I was raised, like, see if you guys get the connection. my father was here, then he wasn't there. So nothing in his life is guaranteed. So I don't walk around and saying, hey, let doors be open for me because I have this title or I work for this company. Or, hey, open this door for me because I graduated summa cum laude when I'm on my school. Or, hey, I'm such and such Kappa Alpha Psi. Like, I'm never that dude. Like, to me, you got to be humble because if you're not humble, somebody's going to humble you really quickly.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like, I'm not an arrogant dude because you can easily be brought to your knees.
Yeah. No, you definitely have not been that arrogant guy in my life. Like I've never experienced that, and I just so when I talk about I have friends, like so in my episode, right? He read something and basically was like, if I call you friend, what's the big deal? Like I don't call everybody friend. And so, what I'm really getting at is what you just talked about is like humbleness, but confidence. What does that look like for you in terms of being in these corporate spaces where, you're in the room with some pretty powerful folks. So how do you strike that balance between being humble but confident?
Yeah, that's I was interviewing one time and they were like, hey, you're too confident, it almost borders on arrogant. And then another interview, hey, you're what did you do? You're deferring to the team. The team did this. It's like you're not confident at all. So I'm like, how does that math add up?
Right.
And I think you solve that riddle by letting people know, hey, I'm confident. I know what I know, but I know what I don't know as well. I'm willing to learn. But there's some common factors, right? When I lead a team, I'm leading the team, but my team thinks they're leading the project because I want them to understand what it means to be successful, to have that seed and present it to this executive. So it's really interesting, that whole confident arrogance. And you talked about it with friend. I don't let people into my circle unless they are good quality people, because you know it, like, hey, Shawn, you're a husband, you're a father, you're an executive. I don't want anybody to pierce that bubble who's going to distract from that. Like, I'm always trying to level up, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's that famous saying, if you want to soar with eagles, you got to hang out with eagles.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody is being a negative, they're not in my circle. They're not a friend. I just, let them in, and not being an asshole. Like, I'm going to teach, mentor whoever comes to me, but you're not going to be a friend if you're going to be disruptive.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
I thought you were going to say something. How did you learn that? Like, so, and again, another thing, right? In terms of surround yourself with people. And I said it before. It's just like, if you're the smartest person in your friend group, then you're in the wrong friend group, right?
100%.
How do you learn that? Like, how is that something that becomes a part of who you are in your DNA? Is that something from your childhood? Is that you stumped your toe along the way? Like, what is it that helps you acquire that skill of saying, no, I got to surround myself with people who are helping me level up?
Yeah, I think it's learned. You obviously get burned. You got some bad people in there, but it goes back to college. I mean, is this the person who's going to be out in the party chasing the women, right? I'll use clean language.
You don't have to.
Yeah, I want. But hey, are they going to be in the club all night? But then we're going to get a F on this test, or is this going to be somebody who we can study, as I said before we go out?
Yeah,
we can holler at the chicks, we can bring them back, have some fun, et cetera, go to the beach. But it's I applied what I learned in college to corporate America. I learned it to my friends. I mean, you don't. The thing that we all have in common, everybody, man, woman, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, we got 24 hours in the day. Not everybody's using those 24 hours effectively. So I choose to utilize those 24 hours to maximize what is core to me, which is my faith, my health, my family, my fitness, and my friends, right? So that is how I kind of have this thing in leveling up. If you're not helping me in one of those arenas, why would I be around you? And again, not to be arrogant about it, but again, 24 hours in a day. I lost my father when I was 10. Comes back to that.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you punctuated with that, because that keeps resonating in my head of the 10-year-old kid that had to deal with that trauma, and how that didn't trap you, it fueled you.
Correct.
Right?
It's a great word.
Right? And I keep hearing discipline. I keep hearing resilience. I keep hearing self-awareness. I keep hearing like just a strong sense of you know who the fuck you are. And none of these people and none of these things are going to knock you off your square, because you've got a North Star and you track to that North Star.
Yeah, I mean, I love the way that you frame that. It was a fuel, and I'm going to take that, by the way, because people ask me, Shawn, how did you get to where you are? And I'm like, hey, how I got to where I am is something I wouldn't wish on anybody. I lost my father, and I could choose to be miserable and mad, or understand that's just part of my journey. And I'm going to make the best of it and be optimistic that I had him for 10 years. And he taught me these lessons, and he's looking down and he's hopefully proud of what his fourth child has done.
So people who have trauma in their lives, right? Because I don't know if you characterize it as that, but you lost your father at 10, and that's a traumatic event. Mm-hmm. But for other people who have trauma in their lives, right, you can either decide that you're going to use it as fuel, like you said, or you're going to be in the victimhood.
Yes, love it.
So what advice can you give for people who have trauma in their past to go from victimhood to using it as fuel?
And I love it. I've not used the word trauma, but it was traumatic, and it really is real. The thing, and I'm going to answer your question, but
sure.
You said victim. That's one of the things that my parents taught me early on is, again, I grew up in the South. I'm a black male, identify as a black male. And it was all the man. The man has me down. The man has me down. And my parents would say, if I got something wrong when I was in the second grade or third grade, they're like, why'd you get a C on your book report? And don't give me this excuse about the man. It's all you. Don't be the victim, Shawn. And I'm not minimizing what you said. There are some real trauma. Mm-hmm. There's some real victims out there, but you have to get up. To me, there's always a path forward. If you have 24 hours in a day, what do I need to do to get better, to be a better person, a better self? Is it getting counseling? Is it surrounding myself with better friends who are going to that North Star? But I just, there's so much opportunity out here for us. Are we seizing it? Are we framing it the right way? And I mean, again, I love how you said, like, you use it as fuel. And I did. It is, honestly, but I don't tell that story to everybody. And it's 17 years, and I'm surprised you never heard it. But I don't talk about my dad to other people because it's my story. But it did absolutely fuel me. But I think having honest conversations with people, understand, like my sister said something, who she was a role model of mine as well. She was in corporate America 10 years before me. And she said something. I remember she was talking to one of her colleagues on the phone, and I overheard, right? I was probably in middle school. She's like, why do they act like the wheel hasn't been invented? And what I've been using since I've been in wherever setting, sometimes it's a small wheel, but it's been invented. Sometimes the small wheel needs to be a big wheel. Who can you talk to who's been in a similar situation, and how do they build on it? Don't sit there and loathe and just reminisce on the past. Like, to me, I use it as fuel to get better, to your point, on my trauma.
So I kind of want to move us along, right? So you've got a beautiful family, you've got a successful career. What is your coping mechanism when you hit low points?
Low points. So, God, how do I answer this? So I take sayings and I will never repeat it or never feel like people like, oh, you stress out. And I will never answer that question because I feel it's kind of self, like, who makes me stressed out? Me, nobody else. But yeah, there are good days and bad days. What I try to do, I used to, tell my team members this. There's 365 days in a year, or 366 when it's a leap year. To me, I look at it end of the day, was this a W or was it an L? The W is intuitive, it's a win. The L is not what you think an L is, it's a learning opportunity. How do I turn that L into a W for that next day? So it's that self-reflection. And it is, if I do get to a low point, who can I talk to in my Rolodex that can help bring me up? Some of my closest friends and my fraternity brothers, and I'll talk to them, some brilliant people. They don't know, they're out of state, they don't know what I do, but I'm like, man, I just had this going, how would you handle it? And they just give me some sage advice. And I want data points to make a much more informed decision. Sometimes I have the answer, sometimes I don't, but I get this other data point for a neutral party and it helps me rebound. But I look at it as like a learning opportunity, and how do I not have another L the next day? How do I turn it into a W, a winning day?
So I can't let us speed past the gem that you dropped at the beginning of that answer, which was simple but powerful. And I want you to unpack this for us. You said, who makes me stressed out? It's me. Say more about that, please.
Yeah, I think we control our own destiny. We control how we feel emotionally, how we attack the day, how we seize the day. It's nobody else. It's that victimhood versus I'm my own Captain America, right? I control my destiny, and I'm not going to let, and I've had it, right? Don't be fooled, audience. Like, oh my God, like he's never had a bad day. He's never been yelled at by his boss. Oh, hell yeah, I have. But how I respond to that is on me. How do I get better? So that's why I never say, man, I'm stressed out. You'll never hear me say, I'm stressed out. You may hear like, yeah, I'm busy. Like, I can't go play golf with you today, or I can't go smoke a cigar with you tonight. But I'm never going to let somebody else control how I feel. I mean, it's to me. And like, how do I, one of my favorite mentors, and it's just common, you guys probably say it, or at least in corporate America, like, when you're in a hole, stop digging.
Yeah.
Right? If you want to get out of the hole, stop digging. And to me, that means, who can I talk to give me a lifeline? Who can I talk to who's maybe been in a hole before and they can tell me how to get out of this hole? And that's why I turn to my dear friends, fraternity brothers, and other people that I've worked with throughout my career.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a break there. But to continue to engage in this conversation, we'd love for you to follow us on our social platforms. And with that, we're on break. All right, we're back. You know where I want to take this conversation next is you said it, and it's been a little bit, you've said it a couple times, right? You talked about reaching out to people, having the conversation for people who've been in the hole with you, or have been in the hole before you, or your people in your Rolodex who can help you along the way.
Which takes courage.
It does. It takes a lot of courage because, one of the things just in our society, in our culture, I should say, rather than society of African American, Caribbean American, whatever it is, therapy, reaching out, getting advice from others, having vulnerable conversations with other Black men just isn't a thing for us. And I'm overgeneralizing, obviously, but that doesn't seem to be something that we do effortlessly. So how did you get to that point where either you're in therapy, you're talking to people and reaching out to folks, or both? Like, how did you get to the point where you realize, this is what I need to do to help me along my journey?
Yeah, it's connecting dots. It's dots from this person and then applying it. And let me give you more structure if that seems really loose. So one of the things when I first got into corporate America, somebody said, hey, Shawn, you can go very far. You probably go further than I am. But one of the things, and this is common with people who are type A personalities and who kind of can see the picture before other people see the picture, they don't want to admit when they're wrong. They have excuses. They become defensive. Be aware of that. And when I'm giving you feedback or somebody's giving you feedback, it's trying to make you better. So then it kind of exhale, the arms uncrossed, and like, you know what? They did give me some good advice. How can I apply this in everything? Be it when I was, been married, happily married for 25 and a half years. It'll be 26 later this year. Talking to one of my best friends about, hey, when you moved in with your wife, how was that first year? What did you learn? When I'm leading a team of 90 people, man, how did you do that? Like, not everybody, like the people you're leading actually wanted your job. Like, how do you bring them along? So you connecting the dots and you understand it makes you better. It's being vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And when people see that you're vulnerable and you admit that you don't have all the answers, they're willing to help you more and they're willing to give you more on your plate. I think sometimes people think you got to have all the answers in order to get to that next level. And you don't. Nobody does, right? Because you got to get over that fear of not having all of the answers, but understanding that bigger things are ahead of you when you admit you're vulnerable.
Perfectionism is a bitch.
Yeah, exactly.
Buddy.
But we all, when you're top of your, quote unquote, when you think you're at top of your game, you may be, but you're really not, because you don't know everything. We're not all this chat GBT or whatever is out there in AI. We don't have all the answers.
So, what that says to me is, I like that we don't have all the answers. I think that's absolutely true. But what I want you really to speak to is people, there's the adage that we've got to be better than everybody else. You're right. How do you battle that? Like, one, do you think that's true? That's first of all. Second, if you don't think it's true, how do you battle against that?
It's, gosh, I can go so many ways with this. I think it is true. I have a framework of success. It's very naive. I've been using this for 20 years. To me, there's 4 keys to success. You got to get results. If people hire you to be a barista at Starbucks, they want a latte, not spoiled milk. So you got to get results, number 1. Number 2, you have to make people around you better, right? People below you, your peers, people above you, make them better. Get results, make people better around you. Number 3 is have a positive attitude. You could be Albert Einstein, but you're an asshole. You're disgruntled. It's always raining outside when it's a blue sky. Be positive. There's always an answer or solution to the test. People don't want to be around with bitter Patty, right? Get results, make people around you better, positive attitude. And number 4 is continuous improvement or rinse and repeat. How do I get better at getting better results? How do I get better at making people around me better? How do I get better at having a positive attitude? How do I get better at getting better? To me, if you practice that, if you're whatever, black, white, female, that's going to open doors for you, because name somebody in any job, minister, barista, whoever, camera crew. If you're doing that, why would somebody want to get rid of you? You make yourself sticky. You make yourself very valuable where they want to level you up, because like, man, if I'm not taking care of Shawn, this other department is going to get him in the company, or somebody's going to get him from another company. So to me, yes, you got to outpace, but you got to be humble. I think sometimes things aren't going to go your way. You may not get the job that you want, but I'm always a firm believer, what meant for you? But what did I learn from it? Again, it goes to that W and L, not a loss, learning opportunity. And to me, you do those things and you're going to set yourself up for success. Don't get me twisted. There is systemic racism out there in the world, especially in America. My favorite stat, look this up if you want to disprove me, if you're a contrarian. What is the net wealth gap between white Americans in 1950 to 2024? still 10x, 10, 12x. They're still out there. But to me, I just practice that. And if I'm in a situation where they don't value that, meritocracy, get the fuck out of here. My talent's gonna be taken somewhere else if I practice those four principles.
Preaching.
He's blacking out over there is what he's doing. Because he done dropped so many gems over there.
Like,
and
damn.
just the span of this answer, like, first of all, the 4-point framework alone had me like, and then you started hitting me with other blows, bro.
Dude. So it's funny, right? It's funny. Like I told this dude, I was like, we gotta have Shawn on. I had no idea why. I was just like, I know this guy's got a good story, but damn, you were hitting us with some gems, dude, and I really appreciate that.
No, I'm glad to be here.
The other question for you: what the hell will you do? Because you're a lot of times the only one in the room when they turn around and ask you to speak for the population of Black folks.
I hate it. It's so real. One, it's not many of us in the room. I still do this, and it still shocks me to this day. So many years after George Floyd, which we're coming up on the 5th anniversary of that I still go in the room and I'm like the only one there. And then when I get that question, it pisses me the fuck off. Because how would they be if they're speaking for all white females or all white males? We're all different. But it pisses me off. But I'm going to say something that's politically correct, but I'm going to let them know they need to talk to other people. Because, again, I can't speak for all Black people. I grew up in North Carolina. I went to a HBCU. I went to a top 5 business program for my MBA. And I still live in the South. But I can't speak for every Black person in the room.
And what just came to me was if we were to turn that energy around and ask them a very specific white question to explain white behavior or white dynamic, they'd be like, well, that's weird.
Yeah, why are you asking me that question?
Exactly. But you got to make yourself receptive. Like, oh my God, he's the militant Black guy. I can't talk to him, because you want to have dialogue. I think that's one of the things that we retrench in our corners, but we got to have dialogue. But to me, it's talk to other people, understand. Why is it there only one Black person in the room? Why is there only one female in the room? Why can't there be more? That power of diversity, there's power in it.
Yeah, I fully embrace what you're saying, because I addressed that the opposite way. So I was perceived as the militant guy, so they stopped asking me.
Yeah. I mean, you make a really valid point. It's like, it can piss you off, but it also is an opportunity.
Correct.
Right? It's an opportunity to open their eyes to something that they ordinarily wouldn't open their eyes to.
Yeah, and for people out there watching, I think dialogue is very real, but turn it into, how can I turn this again into a W win? Can I get them access to go into a school that they wouldn't be in? Can I get them access to a product we wouldn't normally have? Could I open up their supplier diversity program? So those are things that you want to do where it's really adding value. I think at the end of the day, how can I create value for everybody, not only for myself? Because I think that it's very limited if you try to draw all the value to you try to expand access. And I think that's what I try to do when I'm asked that question.
Here's an example. I'm going to try and acmeize this example for what, one, it demonstrates his humbleness, but also what you just talked about, right? There's a certain African-American wine that ended up on a certain, let's call it, passenger logistics company's menu because of this guy. But there was a write-up about it, and he wasn't mentioned anywhere in that write-up. Now, I know this dude well enough to know he has the relationships with this winery. Absolutely. And the owners of this winery. But this man, and I never even called you on it. I didn't call you. I didn't say anything. I just saw the write-up, and it was somebody else that they talked about. And I was just like, damn. Like, this is something that's very public. And he was like, and I can see you saying, I got enough publicity. I don't need any more. Like, let somebody else, one, probably run with that initiative to make it happen. And two, let them get the praise for it. Is that the case? Is that how
it's, and I love the way you framed it up. Yeah, 100%, right? Because there's a common denominator. And to me, I always tell people, if you're the common denominator, you're going to get the reward. You don't have to have your name on we're in Atlanta, Georgia, so you don't have to have it on the connector 85 or 75. But tell you how that started. I was in line at Starbucks at my job. We have a Starbucks on site. A young lady comes to me and said, "Hey, Shawn, let me tell you about this winery. Wouldn't it be great to have them as a product offering?" And I went and I reached out to our chief operating officer. Then I reached out to head of our product portfolio. Because the thing is, it's relationships, it's connections, right? That young lady came up to me, mentioned it to me, and I'm like, wow, that's a great idea. But then I ran and connected the right people, and I reached out to the winery, and they jumped on it as well. But I like being just a little piece of that cog. I don't need to get recognized for it. Because the people who know, they know where the value came from.
No, I love that when I saw that. I don't know.
Well, what's coming up for me overarchingly as you're sharing all of this wisdom is if someone wants to play the corporate game, they can choose to play the game and complain about the rules of the game, or they can learn to master the game.
Yes.
And play it at the highest level.
Yes. And I think, and I love it because I've said that it is a game, but not in the kiddish way. Every life is a game.
Sure.
And again, we don't know the expiration date when the game's over, but am I going to play this game so I can be an expert at it? Can I teach others to be an expert at it? And that's what it's about for me in corporate America. It is, if I'm playing in corporate America, because I have no jump shop, I cannot rap any bars, I'm going to be the best I can be at this game, but I'm going to help other people along it.
So, right, we all have the crossroads in our lives, right, along the way, many of them, not just one. Talk to us about a time in your life where you had a major decision to make and it really weighed on you. Like, I'm sure anxiety, I'm sure fear of failure, I'm sure. Talk to us. Yeah, we don't need the details of the decision, but how did you get through that? And how did you get past that anxiety? And how did you not then put it on your family?
Oh man, I could trying to think what there's work, there's family. This is a tough one. I don't know. Like what I want to say is the time that we're having our first child, and maybe I'll tell this story, then we can do something work as well. But we're having our first kid. When you're having your first kid, it's not as easy as it looks on TV. We had some couples, dear friends, they got married a year before us. They had a kid a year ahead of us. We were talking to them about it, like, hey, wife got off the pill, and it was a year later she got pregnant. My wife got off the pill. She was pregnant like in 3 months. We're like, holy cow, this is quicker than we thought. And then, you go in there, very responsible husband and father to be. We went in and the doctor noticed something that was not right. And we were like, holy cow, like developmentally right with our kid. And that's the thing where you're driven A personality, you have the picture perfect marriage and wife, you got the big home in the suburbs and nice job. You're, gosh, I was probably out of grad school for like 2 years at this point in time. You're like, oh my God, what's going on? And it weighed a lot because, it's somebody that my wife I care for, and she's crying herself to sleep tonight. You pray about it, and you're just like, if this is meant to be, God has a plan, and this is the plan for me. Thank God that everything was fine. It was just a bad image on, the sonogram when that technician was doing it, but our son was healthy, graduated from a top university. Magna cum laude.
We can call it University of Miami.
University of Miami.
Go the U.
The U. So yeah, he's doing really well. But that was really stressful. When I say it, I don't use it, but that was stressful. Because again, it's a new little person coming into this world, and you didn't know if they were going to have some developmental issues. But if it was meant to be, God had a plan. So, wow. But that was probably the toughest part of my life.
I'm learning a lot. Like I didn't know this either.
Wow.
Like, I didn't know this. But talk to us about something professional.
Oh man. So you always it's tough when you have to make a decision to let somebody go, especially when you like them, but they're just not performing well. But again, it goes to, hey, have I done everything that I've done? I learned this from a mentor. Are they coachable? Did you coach them up? Did you give them all the avenues to be successful? But then they ultimately decide their own destiny. But you're going to be fair and humane about it. But it's really tough when they're a friend and letting them go. And I would say it's kind of tough.
Yeah.
It's always tough when you have somebody that you enjoy working with.
When I was still in the leadership seat, because I was that same type of leader, right? That nurtured and developed and did all of the things. For me, I described it as I don't fire people. People fire themselves.
Yes. Well said. And that's absolutely true. But you got to look at yourself, but like, did I fail? Did I fail them? But again, they do that because you got to look at it. If I don't do something, is it going to come back to me that I'm not an effective developer, talent, or able to make a hard decision when it comes to personnel?
Thanks. So there are a couple final questions I'd like to ask you, and then I got a little bit of a surprise for you.
Okay.
So one of those questions is, love to hear your opinion on the notion that Black men are perceived as babies in this world.
Black men
Are perceived as the beast. Podcast is called Beauty and the Beast.
I know. I saw it and I asked about it. And you guys wouldn't tell me because you gave me this trick question. Since we need to know our history, and we have been perceived as that. We have been perceived as lazy, but we built, and again, it's facts. Who built this country? Oh, we had the blueprint as white people, but no, who built this country?
About it.
Who was in the hot sun picking the cotton, the canals, everything that made this country what it is? It was Black men and women. But they gotta have a demon. There has to be the beast. And we're that, but we've shown that we're so much more complex. Just like everybody on this planet, I think being raised by a single mom, again, my father passed away from cancer, what makes her any different from a man? What makes her any different? Nothing. She's just the anatomy. But she's intelligent. She raised a future generation. So to me, this notion that somebody is superior intellectually, I just find that horseshit. It's just me. But we have played the victim. And I think we have to understand our history and how we can overcome that, right? And battle it head on with facts.
So, and sometimes we do this. Sometimes we pivot a little bit. So I do have one more question. And my wife's going to get on me because she's like, you say this in all these episodes, 2 final questions, and you then go a whole different direction. But, and she's off camera shaking her head. Yeah.
Nicole.
Your mother. We didn't get a chance to talk about that. And you mentioned her early on. And I think we'd be remiss if we left here and you didn't get an opportunity to talk about your mom. You talked about the fact that she passed away 20 years ago. What was the impact that had on you?
This is the woman, Shawn Cole is my mom's name. She never married, but she raised in the 80s 2 Black males at home when there was drugs in the street. I never dealt drugs, but I have seen 2 vials of crack cocaine when I was at a party, and it freaked me the hell out. But she set the path to us to be successful. And I remember, and I did all the crazy shit, driving home drunk and waking up in the bed, not knowing how I got there, having sex unprotected, thinking, and luckily I never did have anybody pregnant, but my mom was just that North Star. We weren't rich, we weren't poor, but we couldn't afford a lot, but my mom made sure I had the J's on, the polos. Like I was decked out because I wanted to look like
Everybody else.
And she was a rock, man. And I will tell you, so, and it's my siblings outside of myself and younger brother, they all live within 2-mile radius of where I grew up, where our parents' house. I get a phone call, I'm at work, and it's my sister, and she's like, hey, the doctor said, you need to get home. Mom has 2 days. Went home frantic, right? Like went to Atlanta, get my wife, younger son. He was born in December. My mom passed away in March. So he's 3 months old. And my mom was like, I want to see my newest grandson. She held my grandson. And if you ever have a parent who's dying and you're not in town, your siblings are going to take care of it. So I told my sister and brother, I'm going to spend the night with my mom. She passed away that night in the hospital. First time I've ever seen anybody die, but it meant a lot that she held out to see her grandson, and then she passed away at night when I was in there. But it helped me be there with her versus her passing away and I wasn't there. So I was able to spend the last night of her life with her. So
that's awesome. That was a blessing. I just felt that on my heart. I was like, I wanted to get that opportunity.
Nailed it. Thank you for asking.
Now, final question. And you kind of touched on it a little bit, but so we'd like to juxtapose the question of the beast with this question. What in this world makes you feel loved?
Where people know they talk about me favorably, they know if I commit to something, I'm going to do it, where they reach out to me for sage advice and I'm going to give it. It really feels good. Or I meet somebody and they're like, so-and-so was talking about you. And they're like, you need to connect with Shawn Cole. It makes me feel valued and loved, right? I think we all need love. But that I like having a positive reputation.
Nice. All right, so final thing, a little bit of a surprise. What we do on this podcast, as part of it, is we reached out to the people that love you. And we asked them to provide a little bit of a write-up about what it means or what's the impact their journey has had on you. So I reached out to Dawn, and she provided me a little something I'm about to read.
Okay. You gonna make me cry on camera?
I don't know about all that, right? But I cried a little bit on mine. So
you have the grace too.
Yes,
okay.
you want to.
Okay.
Yes. Shawn's family is close-knit. He has 4 other siblings. When we got married, we immediately moved away from family and friends for him to attend graduate school. At that time, it felt like us against the world because we had to adjust to our new environment when we barely knew anyone, as well as getting to know ourselves as husband and wife. After 2 years, we moved back to Atlanta, familiar territory, and we started our family. Moving, completing graduate school, working, and raising a young family left little time for him to connect with his siblings as much as he would have done in the past. We would see his family, and of course, our sons knew their aunts, uncles, and cousins, but those family gatherings seemed to be few and far between. They always stayed in touch, but life just seemed to always get in the way of actual visits. However, over the past few years, Shawn and his siblings have reconnected and see each other more often. This warms my heart as family is very important. I cherish all of the memories we've made in the past and look forward to more occasions to connect.
That's my wife. She nailed it.
And with that, we're out.